So this is the second ghost build. This is a different one that I captured and made another version. And it's using the original engines, but to the full extent that it can use them. They're two power engines, so you can have six of them because your limit's 12, and so the math. But they wind up with only 87 mobility. They're kind of underpowered. But I made it a pontoon ship. I used these other structure pieces. I'm going to pull those engines off and put the other Class A engines that give you better mobility. And um, the fuel tanks there actually don't usually they're good snap points for these engines, and so these engines will actually reinforce the snap point now. Before using those other engines, the grav drive was the only thing that was keeping that whole module in. I'll show you that in a little bit. I'll do a disassemble on this and show basically how it's put together, because there's some stuff that's kind of hidden there a little bit that help keep the thing glued together. It's a pretty simple ship. Got two 2x1s, two 3x1s, and then it can handle a 2x3 or a 3x3. I've got the original cockpit and companionway tie there. For this companionway doesn't actually punch a hole in the roof for some reason. Almost always that back piece to the this cockpit will punch a hole in any hab that it's sitting on top of, but for some strange, miraculous, lucky reason, it doesn't do it here. And if it was, I can always have two other options. I could just remove it and push the cockpit all the way back to the staircase, or you can remove both those pieces and use like a Magellan hab that sticks out like that and doesn't do it. So we're going to pull the pontoons off so you can see how they're assembled. They're basically those structure pieces wrapped around a 3x1 with windows. And then this back piece is the mystery piece on how is that put together, because that reactor is so limited in snap points, and it's up against the elevator shaft that doesn't have any snap points in the rear. So basically you've got the docking bay that well, I take that back. It's those structure pieces that the weapons are mounted on that have the snap point to the side, that the reactor was holding that whole block of engine and structure pieces and fuel tanks and reactor all together. But when you put on these other 4330 engines, then you get more support because they'll snap to those fuel tanks. But it's pretty simple. There's just a couple of critical points there to make it all snap together. Using the original landing gear, pushing the cargo containers under there, and then snapping my engine mounts in that location. So we're going to show the contrast so that it's a little bit easier to see. You can get a little bit better idea how everything's glued together there. There's the reactor down there, and there's no snap points there when it's faced against the that elevator shaft. That elevator shaft doesn't have any snap points in the rear like that, or on the roof. So I'm able to leverage that top structure piece that fits over the roof to make that blend together. It works all right with this setup. And then they assist in keeping everything glued together there in the rear. But I think it came out all right. I like that. I would build this again and fly it. I like the aesthetics. I don't know how much that really still looks like the Ghost, but that's what the second Ghost became. So let's go take a look inside, see what we got. There's the all of that can stay in place, changing out between the 3x3 and the 2x3. You just have to push the windows back and the docking collar back, and it all works out just fine. So that's completely interchangeable. If you know, put in what you want to put in there, but it'll totally house that. No ladders. I think I'm being lucky though with the no ladder from that connecting spine to the cockpit, but there's other alternatives to that cockpit. Like I say, you can use the Magellan cockpit, which is kind of that same length of both of those two pieces together, and it actually matches up even with the top of the elevator shaft. It just doesn't give that double ripple effect that I think that that shape blends with the overall theme of the ship a little bit better. So and of course I prefer elevators over ladders. But I mean, if you don't have access to the Shroud Premium Pack, you know, the ladders work. You could put a ladder in there, and the ladders actually using the companionways with the ladders makes things a little easier. This actually, those particular decor pieces with those weapon sets, I went in to the creation kit and I did a little bit more investigation on why some of those are showing the skin and some aren't. And I think what happened is there was a method that I did where some of these things I've duplicated from other pack-in creations and then unpacked them in and ungrouped them and then changed them up. And I think that they just lost some of their properties and they're not working well. And these other ones that have always worked just have never been screwed with. Now, this wall's working, and this is a fresh built from the exact same set of assets put up, but it was put up fresh and not duplicated from anything else and then renamed or anything. It was using the original same pieces that these other pictures are using. And all this stuff here, these are the original pieces just put up there as a standalone static pack-in, so they hold their position. Most of them are showing their skins, but this is also a first-time view, and this is the best combination of successes that I've seen. And this is not what this ship had. This is just, I've plugged this in to show what the best case scenario is and that this stuff is working, but it's not always refreshing. It's like you get it one time and it either stays that way or it doesn't. And I think that maybe what I'm running into isn't a problem with the pack-in. It may be that the ship refresh routines have limits as to how many modules and how much data it will track, and after a certain count it says I'm not doing that. This is as far as I go, and we're going to leave that as it is. It's a guess. I've been making a lot of different guesses, but you can see these pieces work, and they work under certain conditions, and sometimes, like I say, they work one time in a row. and then they don't ever spawn again. Maybe when a new game again and pull one of these out, they might all spawn under some condition, and they may stay that way and they may not stay that way. It's a coin toss. So there's some routines that are happening that I'm not aware of the inner workings of, but it's the way that things work, that some things get refreshed and don't have any trouble getting refreshed, and other things are just ignored. And they're the same thing. They're the same thing. There's just some conditional situation that I don't know of why they're handled differently in certain configurations. I don't even know what to describe it because they're the same pieces, and sometimes I can jack around with it and make them work, and sometimes I can jack around with them and can't make them work. And some of them just always work, or work more than they don't work. So there's something going on with the game engine and its decision on refreshing, or how it can handle something that they're just, it's not always the same. It doesn't appear to always be the same. Now this module does not need to be in here. It doesn't have to be in here. It's strictly here just because it's not punching a hole in the 3x3 below, and it helps with the aesthetics. I like the outcome of the look with it still being there. But you could butt the cockpit directly against the staircase, or you can change the cockpit in that spine to, like I say, a Magellan, and not even worry about that other hole, and have the double length. And but it's a different shape, and so it just depends on what you want. So I'm going to take that experimental hab out, and I'm going to put my 3x3 lounge in, and we'll take a look at those results. I'll probably mess with that experimental and eventually make it an actual hab selection, clean it up and deck it out and make it more decorative and more appealing. As time goes by, I'll think of something more useful to do. I think I've gotten all the data that I need to get on experimentation. I don't think that it's anything necessarily that I've done wrong. Well, I say that I've done wrong. Trying to make a decorative item that I want to have a skin on it, there's other methods for that, and so I'm kind of not doing things the way that they will always work. So that would seem like that would be wrong, because the right way is to do things the way they always work. But I'm okay with it because it has something to do, like I say, I think it's something to do with the refresh routines and it not actually being in a weapon rack or actually seen as a gun. So I'm just kind of getting a fringe benefit of it works sometimes, and some of them work more times than others, and that's just the way it is. I did update some of these other ones that have been working, the weapons they had in it, like that AA-99. I went ahead and took the base item that was duplicated and renamed, and several things were working from it, and skinned it, and so it's starting to show up now, skinned. And that, you know, sometimes that rifle, that hard target on the table, skinned, and sometimes it's not, and it doesn't matter. It's something to do with the refresh routines. I have seen this skin some of the stuff sometimes once. When I say sometimes, it sometimes was once. And so there's something there that is not visible to me for having the lack of knowledge of why the refresh routines ignore that, and it's not a big deal. It's just something I don't know. I don't have the information as to, and it's not obvious what's going on because those things work other places. So why it's not working there? It wasn't because of proximity, because I took the same things and I spread them out and I didn't get any better result. And then I decided that maybe it had to do with that they had been packed into a group and into a pack-in and then unpacked and repacked, and that maybe that actually broke its ability to work correctly, that um, it's just broken. And so I rebuilt them from scratch and they worked. So it could be connected to just something that I broke uh, in the game seeing them, because I had changed it from being grouped to not grouped, and then a pack in and not a pack in, and it just like, I don't know what you're trying to do, but just whatever, I'm done with it. So I don't know. It's just something that's it's the way it is. But by rebuilding them from using the same base item, but making a new named pack in and placing it as a single standalone item created from the same base item as a static instanced item, it started working again. And some of them are working consistently and some of them are not working consistently. It seems like they will work early on, but later on they don't, and it may be related to how many items I have in my miscellaneous inventory or how packed up the ship is, because there are module limits. And I've noticed before when I was decorating ships that when you get a lot of decorations in a ship, that the weapon racks would get to a point where they wouldn't accept any more weapons. I would build a ship and I would put as many modules on the ship, windows and structure pieces of various types, and build it out to every single piece you could have, to the final count of how many pieces you could have, and the weapon racks wouldn't accept any weapons after that. So there's limitations, and the game's got limitations in it, and it may be related to all of that. That in order for it to stay sane, and there's just internal limits that it says I'm not doing that. I've got to govern this, or things are going to break, and so it works like that. That would be another guess, but I think that's probably more along the lines of what's happening. Because I do push the limits. I've actually set my module count up. I've set my mannequin count up. I've set my number of ships that I can have count up. So I'm really pushing the game to its limits and doing a lot of stuff. And then I'll go in and edit stuff and make changes. And there's just so many things that you can do like that, and the game starts losing its sanity, and that's to be expected. So I guess that the bottom line on that is this. I think it's probably more something that I'm doing, procedural things that if I had more information on what to do and what not to do, or how to do things and procedurally, then I could probably avoid some of this stuff. But this is kind of a live and learn scenario. I suspect that I'm experiencing here. But I think this turned out all right, this ship. And I have made progress. I've on the display weapon debacle. I have gotten more information. I have success. Like I showed you, I did create some new displays that worked fine for a couple of times. And it's also interesting that if I log off in my ship, when I log back into my ship, that a lot of those weapons that were displaying their skins are not. They're all back to their no skin. But then I can leave my ship and come back in, and they may very well have respawned it, or I can change ships and then come back to it later, and it may or may not respawn. Um, so it's just the way things are. But I think this shape, I don't usually use that particular structure piece. I usually use the other curved piece that the Claymore uses, but it looks and works pretty well, I think, with this rebuild. Whenever I build a ship I call this a small ship, but it may be as more of a medium-sized ship. Um, but whenever I build something like this and I populate the roof a whole lot, it doesn't give you a whole lot of space to put things like your weapons. And I don't like the profile of these squared off Tootsie Roll looking weapons all sticking up on it like hair curlers. I think that's very aesthetics breaking, immersion breaking, and the poor construction look of those. They should have made them look more like actual weapons, barreled weapons or emitter weapons, as opposed to Lincoln Log. But they did what they did on that, and for whatever reason. But I think that it makes it difficult to make all of the lines flow when you've got Tootsie Rolls for weapons. Probably part of it is that I'm a gun person. I own a lot of firearms and I've been around them all my life. So I have this in my head of what it should look like and what it should not look like. And so it's kind of a cursed image when it does not look like what I'm familiar with. And so that's not necessarily their fault. They're artists doing what artists do, and if you're an artist and you're not a gun person, you may come up with, you know, Marvin the Martian weapons that look more comical. But it's cool. It's all right. I think that the artwork is done really, really well. That there's a lot of really nice aesthetics to this game. And I've got my beach house where I can go and stare at the ocean. There's actually aquatic creatures at this location, so that's kind of nice. I don't really ever go into those houses. I stay in my ship, but they make a nice setting. And they're actually decorated pretty nicely. That small house is decorated really nicely. So these are some of the things I've built so far. I definitely like this last Ghost better than that first one. And I'm still sticking with my Razorleaf being my base ship. Okay, I could take a look at it. I've got it decorated. I haven't really been adding any more decor to it. There's room for it, but it's got enough stuff in it. I don't want to break it. I'm gonna probably spend a little bit more time before NG. But all the weapons on this are displayed. It's all working here. All of them. So they work. Well, with exception to the armory where I'm trying to display them. And that virtually has never worked for displaying the skins. Oh, it works, like I say, in a blue moon. Less frequent than a blue moon. And Marvin's weapon. Marvin the Martian. Yeah, see? The A99 skin surfaced. It wasn't skinned before, but I skinned the base item and now it's showing up in that display. This is towing tossed, but it usually skins. That one skins quite frequently. These skin quite frequently. So, you know, some of the stuff works really well and very repeatably, and some of it never works. But it may be due to volume. This stuff that's on the floor is going to be recognized at a gun, so it doesn't have any trouble going ahead and handling this is stuff that's not in a gun rack, that's a pack-in that it's got to determine, and it has less probability of doing that.